Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Good Deeds, Real Estate with a Mission. I'm Bill Weidecker from the Fine Homes Group at Keller Williams Realty Metropolitan. Good morning, all. I'm here this morning with our producer, Justin McIsaac. Good morning, sir.
What's happening, Bill?
All things real estate today. We are excited about the spring, as is usual. We've noticed, I'm going to give a little bit of an update on what's going on in the real estate market here in the state of New Hampshire. And we have noticed that there's a little bit better inventory on the market now, year to date, and I'm just going to get into that.
Spring has sprung for inventory? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it sort of has. People say that, one of the things that happened with COVID-19 back in 2020 is that the pandemic kind of changed seasonality in the real estate market. Every day was spring for about 2 years. There was just, the buyers were everywhere. Because once people realized that real estate wasn't locked down here in the Granite State, because other states were. You couldn't really transact real estate very easily. Here in New Hampshire, the governor, after less than 48 hours, opened up our ability to transact real estate, and under what was considered tighter conditions back then. But most people realized, well, I can still work. I'm just going to have to work from home. Those that didn't ever consider that a possibility suddenly were thrust with, not only is it possible, it's what I have to do.
Right. And you said during it's funny because as we're taping this, it's like the 4-year anniversary of everything kind of shutting down, as I'm seeing them, like my Facebook memories and like old posts and stuff like that. So you said in previous shows you'd have to walk around basically in a house with a phone doing like the doing the virtual tour for people, or they were just shopping online and looking at pictures.
Yeah, and then in really tight conditions, we were allowed to conduct open houses eventually, and it was like one at a time.
Right.
You walk through the house and it was don't touch anything, windows open. It was It was just bizarre. Thank goodness, we were, as you say, it's 4 years ago. We were running into the spring weather,
right? So
people could get outside, and could you imagine if this happened in November, going into the winter months?
Right. And we still hadn't quite figured out that like being outside. I think it was just coming around. We're like, yeah, outside's okay. Yeah, and everybody bought all the cleaning products, but then we figured out that virus isn't on the stuff; it's in the air. So outside's cool, inside, But yeah, if it happened in November, that might have been a wrap for everybody, right?
Sure. Now, what we realized was this, Justin, is that because I can work from home, and many people still are a few days a week, because I can work from home. Well, home can be just about anywhere,
right?
And so New Hampshire became really, really popular, as did a lot of the Northeast, but New Hampshire in general, just because of, I'd say, the diverse opportunities that existed from a natural landscape point of view, from the seacoast to the mountains to the lakes.
To the no state income tax?
Yeah, that certainly didn't hurt. I mean, people saw it as, look, so we were discovered anew, and as a result, inventory has been an issue ever since. We were in an inventory-tight market prior to 2020.
Probably tight but manageable, right? But then
now it's like at a different scale altogether. And so, to give you a sense, this morning there are less than 1,000 single-family homes, 960 properties, single families, actively on the market in the state of New Hampshire. Now, keep in mind, that's spread out through the entire state. To give somebody some context as to what that means for you locally, take a city like Manchester.
Yep.
Manchester has got 115,000 population. There were 11 single-family homes on the market this morning.
Yeah.
Across all price ranges.
Right.
11.
Not a lot.
No. And so if and then you take Bedford, which also had 11 single-family homes, but the majority of the homes in Bedford, it's a bedroom community. The average price is higher there.
Sure.
But of those 11, 8 of them were over $800,000.
Not really in a lot of people's price range.
No.
Right.
So what we're finding is there's huge pressure on price. And I looked, just to give you a quick rundown, 3 properties on the market in Goffstown. 3 single-family
Well,
homes.
I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago it was one.
One.
So that's like a 200% increase, right?
Hey, listen, I'm not doing the math. I just know it's not enough.
Right.
And like if you wanted to look at all properties in Goffstown, we could do it during lunch.
Right.
Yeah. Just bring your lunch and we'll see all 3.
The grand tour.
Pick one. 12 in Derry, 19 in Portsmouth, 8 in Concord. So that gives you some context as to what inventory means when we say there's only 960 in the entire state.
Sure.
It's not enough.
Right.
And as a result, it's good news for those that even bought properties last year. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown from our year-to-date numbers. And so far, single-family homes, the median sale price in the state of New Hampshire, year-to-date versus last year-to-date. So through the first 2 months,
Yep.
we're up 9.5%. Call it 10%
Okay.
in price versus last year at the same time, $460 versus $420. So if you were a median priced home last year, you've established $40,000 in equity in a year.
Well, let me call Mrs. McIsaac. We're going to the Cabo or something.
Yes,
like that.
put it on red.
Sure.
Put it on red. So closed sales are up over last year. We're up a little bit, 5 points. New listings are up. So there's more property coming on the market. Mm-hmm. So here's what that means for people that are considering selling and buying in in New Hampshire in this upcoming year. The big rub, there's been 2 of them, has been interest rates.
Yep.
And where will I go if I sell?
Right.
So the interest rates, we're going to get a better sense this upcoming week, next week, when the Fed meets. We're going to get a sense as to what they're looking at. But I think we're going to hold steady on rates as we come out of those Fed meetings next Wednesday.
Okay.
So don't anticipate much there. And the market's kind of already baked into that. So we've seen a little bit of moderation in rates, but not much over the high point in the fall. And most people have gotten over the interest rate shock.
Right.
All right. So a lot of people are saying, I don't care. I need a bigger house, a smaller house,
Yeah.
a different house.
My first house.
a different location. Yeah. And they're just doing it. Because, interest rates were high last year at this time. And people bought, and you now see the result of that. They built equity for themselves in the last year. Mm-hmm. And in condos, we say 10% in single-family homes. Condos are up in the state of New Hampshire by 17%, 17.6% higher.
Wow.
Yep.
Look, this might be a question because we're not quite up against the clock yet in this segment, but maybe for the next minute. So speaking of like COVID and condos and all that sort of thing, one of the things we heard last year or over the last 4 years was with everybody working from home, all these industrial parks and business space and all this, business real estate that was bought. That's basically just kind of, maybe this is more in like big cities than in New Hampshire, but it's just sitting there vacant. Eventually, someone's going to get the bright idea to turn that into housing, into condos or maybe apartments or something like that, or duplexes, maybe not duplexes, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
Has any of that occurred, or do you think that would help out the inventory crisis, or is that not really something in New Hampshire that you can really see happening?
Oh, it's happening. You take the city of Manchester, 1000 Elm Street. They've converted a portion of that building,
Okay.
from office to residential apartments.
Yep.
And what we're seeing in most of those conversions is they're converting them to rentals.
Yeah.
And so not to condominiums necessarily.
Right.
And so it doesn't help the ownership side of things, Justin.
Okay.
But it certainly helps if you increase housing stock in general. You're going to increase the inventory if it makes renting more affordable, and has an effect on pricing. It's going to eventually affect the price of housing to buy as well. Eventually,
there's not just a home owning crisis. There's a renting crisis too. Like even where I live in Rochester, renting an apartment costs like almost as much as it did in Manhattan 5 years ago.
Yeah, and there's again not enough inventory there either because the vacancy rates are a couple of percentage points. It's not there's not enough inventory, and that's changing, and so we may find ourselves over increasing. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about this real estate market. You're listening to Good Deeds Real Estate with a Mission. Stick with us. We'll be right back.